Good day and thank you for joining us in the second episode of the Lingering Nightmares video game Devlog. I'm Mark, and first a small update. We will be changing the day on which we upload our weekly devlogs to Saturdays. It's just better for us to work on the project from Monday to Friday and dedicate each Saturday only to record, edit and upload the videos to YouTube. Very well, let's review this week's progress. For my part, I continue to work on the same system of objects and item interactions, but we also incorporate a basic system of locks and keys for doors. We created a database for items to be able to access all the items we have in the game, and with our item database and interaction system, we also incorporated a quest system with rewards based on item collection. Right now, it only works with item collection, but being a modular system, we can also use it with quests to kill a certain number of enemies or interact with certain objects, move obstacles and other stuff. So it gives us the freedom to create more complex systems in the future. Already, with this system of quests and rewards, we are testing NPC interaction. It's a quite basic NPC interaction, but it is a good entry for once this gets resolved. We could dedicate ourselves to creating gameplay in the scenarios that we've already created. Alright, I'm going to quickly show you how they work. This system, we have our same pickup system, but it's now event based and a lot cleaner. So we don't have the problem that if we're in the area of two pickups and we interact, both get destroyed. We just grab the first object we got in range with. And we also created a code to be able to throw these pickups. For each hand, if you have an item, you can choose to throw that item. It is still a work in process, but already with our event-based system, we can incorporate it in the mechanics of stealth and combat with the enemy. So the moment when these objects collide with the surface, we can call a summon method, and this allows us to confuse the enemies and lure them away from our position. Right now, Elle is working on this. Are we going to show it next? But this is what I was working on, the area of pickup interaction. Now let's see how our lock script works. Here we have a normal door and a locked door. The normal one works as we've already seen, but we also include an animation. Right now it's a general animation for all interactions, but the idea is that each object to have an independent animation override, so that each object can decide how you interact with it. This is the door animation, but it should be a different interaction for when you grab an item, and the player should bend down and reach to grab it. And there should be a mirrored version with the opposite hand. But right now we have this general interaction of him raising his hand. With our basic door, the door only opens and closes. The interaction text is changed depending on whether the door is open or closed. The audio clip changes depending on the door being open or closed. And with our new lock script, this code allows us to change the way the rest of the interaction codes behave. For example, we have the same interaction codes on both doors, but when I try to interact with it, the audio is different. It is an audio in which it seems that you're trying to force a closed door, and a text box appears that gives you some tip on how you can get this door opened. It's a very similar system to the ones used in the classic Resident Evil games, where they tell you the type of key you need. If I press A again, this text box gets activated or deactivated, but the interaction text below does not change from closed to open because the door never opens. If we leave, unlike the other door, there is no output audio. If we go and the door is opened, you'll hear the audio from when it closes automatically. And there's also the movement. The lock code changes the way the rest of the interaction codes interact, and is very flexible because this is independent of what interaction codes you put on it. It can be movements or sound interactions or the ones we want. And now we have that freedom. It says that we need a square to be able to open it. Right now we do not have any squares in the scene, but if we interact with our NPC, it will tell us, hey, I can give you a square, but you have to bring me 2 rocks and 2 cylinders. The text of interaction with the NPC are talk and leave. If we leave, the text box disappears, and since he gave us the quest, if we talk to him again, his interaction text changes. He says, I'm still waiting for the 2 rocks and 2 cylinders. So it's a system that checks the status of the active quest, and depending on the state, the NPC is going to change the text dialogue. It is necessary to put dialogue audio and many other things, but it is already a modular system in which we can add several more complex interactions. Just like with our quest system, we can modulate different types of quests with different types of collection items, and we can select different quantities. For each item, here it asks us for 2 of each, but we can put in the quantities we want. So it's at least a flexible system. Then he keeps asking us to bring him his 2 rocks and 2 cylinders. The idea of this is going to be that we have to go and collect them, but since we only have 2 inventory slots, our 2 hands, it will be possible to grab up to 2 of them and bring them back. The moment we talk to him, if we have an item in our hands, for every item we have in each hand, if that item is a quest item for that specific quest, then the NPC will remove the item from us and record the progress. Currently, it still doesn't work as intended. If I grab the item, automatically it takes it away and saves the progress. For example, when I grab the cylinder, the quest will update the cylinder's objective amount remaining, and if I grab the other, regardless of which hand we use, here in this fmod error we can see that once we grab it, a mission objective was fulfilled, the cylinder's objective, and now the objective of these 2 rocks remains. If we talk to the NPC, he's still in the same state. There has been no dialogue progress. We could change it so that at the time one goal gets completed, the dialogue changes again. That is an option, but right now, since it's just a test, we didn't include it. The dialogue would not change until all the objectives of the mission get completed. So if we go for our 2 rocks, down here you will no longer see the text. Another one appears, but since it's the same, you will not see the difference. But we already have all the quests completed. We have the 4 items. We can see that now we have nothing in our hands, but if we talk to the NPC, here's also a mistake, but if we talk to it, we can see that automatically the rewards appear in our hands. Right now we put it in the right hand as a default. We still don't know how to choose which hand the item will go to, or if it will fall on the floor. We also have to add some animation or cinematic when he gives you the reward. But the important thing is that the system works. It already gives a reward, which is the square we need to open the door. The text has not been changed, but if we go away and return, the NPC takes a little to realize the mission is completed and to change the dialogue, but at least it already changes to the dialogue text in which the quest is completed. And here he tells us thanks for completing the mission. I hope the square will be of use to you. So we already have a basic NPC behavior system based on the state of the quest that he assigns, and this is the final dialogue until we find another way to start another conversation. But we already have the key. This key works as any pickup item. We can grab it in any hand, we can throw it like the other items. Once we throw it, we can pick it up again and throw it with any hand. Also, the longer we push the throw button, the further we throw it away. Since it becomes any item and gives us the flexibility we want, we can decide if it's throwable or not, but right now all the items are. If we return to the locked door and we have the item that the door has registered as a key, the moment we interact with the door, the lock code will play an audio to give us feedback that the key was provided or used, and that there was progress and the door was unlocked. The text no longer appears because there is no longer another clue that we need to be given, and automatically the lock code returns all interaction codes as the interactions of a normal door. This is now a normal door. We also have another resemblance with the Resident Evil games, that at the time we use a key, if the key is no longer needed for another door, the key automatically disappears. The door no longer can get locked and can be used as any normal door. This is the current state of our quest system, NPC interaction, logs and keys. And we can continue to interact with objects in the same way we had before. Next, we're going to show how we're using this system, grab and throw objects with the system that Ellie is creating, and with audio detection and stealth to distract enemies. That's what we are going to see next. Very well. And finally, we will show you the progress made by Ellie over the past week with enemy behavior, when they spot the player, the sound making, so they can detect us by the sound we generate, the visual detection, and also how we can use our codes of collect and throw objects with this sound making code to distract our enemies. Here we can see a visual representation of the sound we make when the player is walking. This is the sphere that makes the sound, so if we are on idle and we are not moving, it will be a minimum area that would only be detected if the enemies are too close to the player. But if we start to move, we can see on the screen above how this sphere grows, depending on the player's speed, if the player is moving, and also in the player state. If the player starts to move faster after it takes some impulse, the sphere will grow, and if it's barely starting to move, the sphere will decrease in size. If we jump, just waiting for the enemies to leave, if we jump, the sphere will become much bigger. That's when we do the most sound. And if we crouch and move while crouching, the sphere will be smaller. So this method to produce sound based on an area is what we are going to use with the objects that can be thrown in such way that if we grab our objects, and by the way I'll include an animation for the throw behavior that is still very basic but gives us a visual reference. The moment we launch an object, the code will work as follows. At the time of the collision, the item will look for all objects with the enemy tag that we have listed in the scene, and will calculate whether the distance between each object and the location of the collision is equal or less than 20 meters. If that distance is equal or less for that enemy, then it will tell that enemy to check the collision area. Then this is how the code works. And we can also, if we want to stay stealthily, we can throw our objects while being crouched. Then, for example, right now we only have this enemy in the area where the collision took place. There before, only this enemy was called to investigate the area. This is the way in which right now our enemies detect if the objects that we throw are in their interaction zone. For example, if while being here I produce sound, even if the enemies do not see me. Let's wait for an enemy to get closer. If we produce sound, I think he saw me from above. If I produce sound, automatically they're going to turn to the sound location in which they detected sound. Then, if they see you, they're going to change their patrol or alert behavior to chase state. But if we're not seen, let me check if I can make sound without being seen. They're just going to get into the alert state, and in the alert state they aren't as fast as in the chase state, which is when they see you and they're certain that there is a player. Let me see if I'm able to make a sound. Here, as we can see, they only entered in the alert state and the square only changes to yellow. But if we get close so they can see us, here we can see that as I produce sound, he turns around and sees me, and then he enters in the chase state. Once he's in the chase state, his visual detection area will grow. Normally the detection area it's only around 80 degrees in a cone, and once it detects us, the area grows to 300 degrees, much larger, and is much more difficult for us to get out of sight. This is the current state of how we interact with enemies, and this is what Ellie will be doing next week. She will be working on making this type of interactions more complex, also in improving the way our objects produce noise, refine the states and animations by layer, so the way the characters interact look much more natural, and that also that when you throw an object, the moment the object gets thrown is based on an animation event, so the interactions trigger according to the animations. That's the current state. This is what we're going to be working on next week, and we thank you very much for staying with us until the end of the video. Likewise, all the tutorials that we follow or on which we based on to get this progress done, we're going to leave them in the description. You are invited to check them out if you're interested in getting these tools into your projects, as well as our Twitter account. If you like our content, feel free to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you very much for your attention, and we wish you have an excellent day.